Hi, I'm Stephen Nelson. I'm the engineer for radiation oncology, and I'm here today to show you how to change an MLC motor. There's 120 motors inside this MLC, and from time to time they go bad. So what to do? Well, first thing you want to do is position the machine so that you can get to the MLC. So now we've got the machine lying down. We need to take off the cover to get to the motors. And there are two screws here that we unscrew. There's a lock latch. There's a screw that goes into that. I've already taken the screw out. Pull straight out very carefully. This is the A side. That's the B side. There's always a little piece of writing there. So once you know what motor you're going to change, we have to find it. And you find it by using what's called a clue card. If you hold the clue card up, you can see by its transparency which motor is A5. A5 happens to be right here. And so what we're going to do is follow its pigtail. Notice that it's plugged in on the inside, so we'll have to take an outside one off so that we can get to the inside. If you look closely, you can see the retainers on these motors on this side and that side. The first 10 and the last 10 are what we call full leaf motors. This happens to be a full leaf motor. There are 10 full leaf motors, 1 to 10, and then from 51 to 60 are full leaf motors. They're larger and easier to accessible. The full leaf, half leaf motors are much more difficult to get to and hard to see, so I'm using the large motor as an example. Now, before we do anything other than pulling the wires off, we've identified our motor. We have to put a bib around the machine in case something drops. Because if something drops, then it's very hard to get it out. Like so. Notice how the wire is in relation to the retainer. This round piece being called the retainer, it holds the motors in. Once we unscrew it, the motors are free to move and rotate. We can take out our motor, and there it is. Notice the paddle. The paddle has to line up with the slot on the inside. Notice what o'clock. This one looks like 1 o'clock will do just fine. So we position this key so that it goes right into the slot. And when you feel springy pressure, means you're seated correctly. If you hit hard pressure, you're not seated correctly. So once you're seated correctly, you can put the retainer back on. However, any other motors that this retainer is used for, we have to double check and make sure that that's still seated or properly seated as well. Not only do we have to make sure that it's properly seated, and you can do that with the wrench once you get it very close by pushing on this one. This retainer only has 2 motors. That one's seated, this one's seated. Now, we can tighten up just a little bit because we know they're both seated. Now, they won't come unseated anymore, no matter what we do. But if we notice this cable is close to being pinched by the retainer, so we use our tool and rotate the motor so that the cable is well away from the retainer. At this point, we're free to tighten it up. And you want to do a good firm tightness, don't try to break it or anything, but firm tightness. And they're very hard to seat, but once they seat, they snap right in. And whenever you're finished, you always want to go down the line to make sure you didn't disturb any of the other plugs. We're going to go to dial in on the panel. Okay, we're going to test our leaf.